All right. Good morning, everyone. We wanted to do a quick webinar this week now that version 21 has been released as a pre-release and show some of the new features that have we've been seeing talk about coming with version 21. So with that introduction, I will turn it over to Andy, who has been diligently burning the midnight oil to play with 21.
Yeah, we've been playing diligently all night long, yes. Anyway, how's everybody doing? That's great. 21 is out. This is a wonderful thing. Life is great. And there's some new features that we wanted to discuss and play with. One of the bigger features, especially for those that are still doing Windows development and things like that, is telemetry. Now, telemetry requires you to have IIS loaded or have a set up Apache or something like that, a server. It can be installed with your existing WAS server, okay? And where it is located for installation, because this has been a little bit of a deal for this, is, because I had to actually ask twice about it, is if you get into where you install your Windows, you'll have your program files. Now, I installed the 64-bit version, but you got your program files, PC Soft, WinDev, and then you have is it under programs?
There's an install directory.
That's right. It's the install. That's the install directory is what I'm looking for. Where's that at?
Down.
Oh,
it's right back here. Slow down.
Slow your roll. Let's go back over.
It was there. It was there. Go back.
You know what the problem is? It's Ben Dell. He's back again.
Yeah,
causing me trouble.
All right.
I'm switching my mic off.
On. There you go.
It's under here, under the install directory. There's a WDR server. So this is where you got it. You would take and copy that exe to your web server and just install it. And following the proper things, it will work right. If you don't have a WAS server, WExperts is setting up to be able to do this for you. Let us know, and we're looking on how we can set this up as a service for everyone out there, that if they want to not have to go through creating. You do not have to have a WAS license. That's number one. It comes with it basically, so you don't have to have a purchase a WAS license, a web application server license. But if you don't have a remote server and you still want to use this feature, and you don't want to set up a remote server and all that stuff, check with Pete and I. We'll certainly work with you and see what we can do, okay? Because we are providing some cloud services for everybody. So let's get into everything else. Right now, I basically set up all the applications for the WAS server. And what you do is underneath the configuration, when you go there, one of them will say, do you want to use telemetry? Well, telemetry will give you a user ID and password. Once you put that in your IDE the first time, any new application, if you turn that on, it's there automatically. You don't have to worry about remembering the user ID and password. It's there. So you can see that everything that's been compiled here, and I got several of them, all of them now have telemetry. Now, not all of them is released, but there's two of them I do have that I've been playing with, and one of them is Psych Partner here. As you can see, this one's been running just for a little bit, and I've got 13 users anonymous that's on there. They don't have usernames. That's fine. It's going through a lot of information. How many times they started? 366 times. number of actions that they've had or they've done to the system for deal, how many time since the last time it aggregated any data, which was over 7 deals ago, tells you each one of the applications, how much time it's being used, tells you what action's been done the most. So if I can click this and it'll say this is the most frequently run action. It's going up to my server and bringing it down. And it's bringing down every one of the procedures and how many people's used them and how long it took. So I can certainly look at the top procedures up here and see what has been used the most and say, okay, well, if that's been used the most, how can I speed that up? If this has been used the least, well, I don't need to worry about it too much. I can check and see what kind of different hardware's been using it, the different resolution's been using it. I can check to see whether anybody has more than one screen. The 3 or more is me. By the way, if you run it locally or you hit the go button, it will show your data as well. So, I mean, I can tell which one it is, and it shows you how much RAM's being used. You know, most of them are using on each one of the machines. At the majority, you got a 4 gig machine. The 16 is me. The 8 gig is one other person. What the platforms are, that there's several of us on Windows 10. There's a couple on XP still, Windows 7, and things like that. So that's all sitting there. I mean, this is some excellent items. So I've got, you know, each one of these things as you go through this. Now, where's the kicker? What's the most useful item? This is great for statistics and everything, but what is the best items? Well, number one, this takes the longest right here, selecting a row of the lookup status. So that is something that, okay, that took an average of 21 seconds. Why? Well, it actually does quite a bit. But there may be things I need to look at to speed up that process, okay? The second thing is looking into the anomalies. These are the errors. Now, some of these errors, do not think that the user has these errors. These are also in my Go program, you know, when you hit your debugger. But if we want to look at that error, and this is the thing, I did have one come back that was never reported. So what happens is that I'm looking at this and saying, okay, well, what's the error? And I highlight that area, double-click it, look down, scroll down a little bit, and I can see every one of them that's here. Every one of them that's here. And this is the one that was never reported. When I double-click, it actually gives me the same error as if I'm in the debugger and it's blowing up for whatever reason. And the reason that it was doing that is because they had there was a code in there for array copy that was incorrect, and it was an area that hasn't been, you know, looked at or tested on or do anything with, and so it started showing up because somebody was out there playing in that area. To me, this is the most awesome piece, because I've got one of the other part is this one right here. We all have these end user issues possibly. Well, this one here is telling me somebody tried to put in 229 as a date value for a leap year when 2002 wasn't a leap year, and that's the reason behind it. Okay, somebody's got a camera on, and they flipped. Are you still seeing my screen, Pete?
Yeah, I'm seeing your screen, Andy.
Okay, all right, all right. So anyway, you know, it's giving me these errors, so I can go over there and correct that problem, or I can put in, all of a sudden I'm getting a few errors like that, or putting in invalid dates or something in areas that usually are defaulted dates. So I go in there and do a soft check and say, hey, that's a wrong date. You got to fix that because it's incorrect. Even though 229 is a valid date, it's not a leap year for that year, so that's the reason why the database rejected it, is the reason why. And I can start putting in some soft validation. So all in all, this is the one thing to me on the telemetry that has been just absolutely wonderful. Now, I haven't quite got into doing anything more with it. One of them up here, there is a custom telemetry that you can add. I haven't done anything with it yet. That is, when we get into full-blown webinar on this, we'll certainly go through that. I can look at issues that are today, which obviously nothing's run. Anything that's run yesterday, look for anything that had issues yesterday. I can go through that. And even though I'm in one program, I can actually look at other ones. That's the key part about this is I can actually look at other programs that I have in my issue, out here, even from the current project I'm in, because they're all in the same telemetry. So I don't have to unload this one and bring up a different one to see any of the issues. I really don't. So I wanted to show off the telemetry because I think that out of all the features that they give you at the moment for WinDev itself, this is probably one of the absolute coolest to me. It's absolutely great. I'll be experimenting more with this. I'll be exploring it more, setting up custom telemetries. Since it is a web service, that does not mean that you cannot figure out how to set it up and work it in the other two programs of either the mobile or the WebDev. You may not get everything that they provide here, but there's nothing saying that if you can't go through that, you can't do that. Okay? So we'll go through that. And I agree, Ben. You're absolutely right. I will experiment more with this. We'll get some documentation in there because obviously, we'd like to use it in all three programs to kind of get an idea of what's going on. But if you can do custom ones, which is what this is doing here, you can set up your own custom telemetry. I'm not going to do this because I haven't tried it yet and I have no idea what it's going to do, but we can set up our own custom telemetry here. And I just want to see when we do a full-blown webinar on everything that's going through this thing, we'll certainly go through that. Okay, that's what I've got. Pete, what about your stuff?
Okay, well, I can first of all, the biggest feature that I will say that's not even just a version 21 feature, it's a feature of every release that they've ever done of new versions, is the fact that I can upgrade my applications and not spend 6 weeks doing that application. In fact, if you go to the WinDev US website, it is running version 21, which was released yesterday. So that gives you an idea. So that's the first thing I will definitely say is I'm always impressed with how reliably the updates are. Yeah. They don't break stuff, which is absolutely fantastic.
As a matter of fact, as you upgrade, it sometimes comes up with warnings and things that you might have not done earlier, not really good, and it adds to the fact that if you recode it, the warnings, you actually create better stability for your application.
Yeah, and then let me just show that this is when you first see this and read about this new feature, you kind of assume, this is just one of those fluff features to get their 921 new features, but it's yet another one of those little subtle things that makes us more productive as developers. First of all, we all know the debugger for WinDev WebDev is absolutely a fantastic debugger. I absolutely love working and debugging my applications with it. We also sometimes use trace to get information while we're running it to see certain variables and stuff as we're working, debugging, developing. One of the new things they've done is they've added a new pane to the debugger called the trace pane. And as you see, I've got a little trace statement here. So now when I run this page, And we will turn that off. And I will have to drag this over here. All right, so now when I save changes, the way that always worked in the past was a little trace window would pop up as a separate browser page. And especially in Windows, the downside to that was when you closed your Go program to go back into WinDev, WebDev to continue working, you lost your trace window. So either there was some information in there that you kind of needed to step through your logic and figure out, why is this thing doing what it was? You had to take a screenshot of that trace window or something. So what they've done now is over here in the debugger, they've added this new pane right here. And not only are we seeing, this is my trace statement, we're also seeing an error that they captured that I wasn't even aware of. Apparently, because it fired from the Ajax server side, that error never got all the way through to me, through to the browser, but it's showing up in that trace pane as well. And the really nice thing about this is even when I end the test, and especially with WinDev, when you end that test, your debug screen went away. Well, guess what? It's now still there.
Right.
So that's really going to be, again, it's a subtle little thing, but it's definitely going to make you more productive when, I've got some places where I have some extremely complex logic where, there may be 10 or 15 variables that all affect a bunch of different conditions on which code is or isn't executed. So I have all those variables in a trace. Then I can see them on the screen and kind of step through the logic and see what's going wrong with the logic. And this just makes it a little easier to do that. So that was the one I found this morning. There's a lot of new stuff. Let me show one that is definitely on the silly side. Remember, they have the new, one of the things they said for WebDev is they made the menu control a CSS menu and added some new features to this. So when I hover over that, notice the menu flips into place. It's definitely not a huge thing, but it's just one of those little extra touches that makes it a little more attractive. A little more of a modern feel. And more importantly, if we look at the HTML that this thing has generated, it's far more Google friendly, which it is a big deal because search engines and that sort of thing are going to be able to index it much easier. So that's what I've found in my first sleepless night with WebDev 21.
And I do know that he has upgraded the WinDev US site to be 21, right, Pete?
Yep. We're running 21.
So 21 is now running on all of the WinDev US site as well as WExpert site, both. It is set up for that, so you can certainly, play and see what kind of things you can do with WinDev or WebDev in 21 by going up there and just roaming around the site and seeing what it's doing.
Yeah.
And we don't mind.
And the other thing to definitely mention is we now have the shopping cart fully working on WinDev US.
Absolutely.
So if you want to play with 21 yourself, go order your upgrade and get to playing.
Yeah, get first grade experience of 21.
That's right. So we do not mind taking your credit card.
On a different topic, on my side, what I found interesting, I've been messing around with two different things which are kind of need in our environment because we interface with a lot of different hardware. In my old development environment, I had to end up creating a application program for each. And what attracted me on this 21 especially is that conditional target code, declaring different sections of code.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of a godsend all of a sudden because I was about to start with that nonsense, converting that code. And when I saw that, I jumped onto it, and it works brilliantly nicely. And the nice thing about it is it's where before in WinDev I would put the conditional code in and create a equate somewhere up in the application project file in the global section, and then depending on the equate it will either do X, Y, Z or this equipment or that equipment. But the point is it bloated your code. Since I've put that thing in, the code is dropped by a third of the size, so which is quite nice. So that's the thing which is nice because it's just like an open angle bracket, and then you say code if this and this and this, and it'll do that part of the code or that code, and it'll conditionally compile it in the end result, which is beautiful. And then the other thing what I found, because we do a lot of threading, because we work with serial ports and multiple information coming in, you can't really run it on the same thread, because sometimes the serial port will kind of look like it seems to hang the application. So we have to do multi-threading. In the old way, we had an array and some local variables, and we had to write the critical section parts. And you end up sometimes forgetting parts where you access this critical section variables, and you kind of forget it. And that new feature in WinDev, it's if you want to look it up in the brochure, it's 092, and they were talking about multi-threading. And as a matter of fact, if you look at it and you try and use it, it won't work because in the brochure it's incorrectly written there. They say open greater than less than sign multi-thread. It's not actually that. It's actually greater than less than sign. Inside it is critical space section. That's the actual wording for it. When I started working with it, the online help wasn't around yet, and PCSoft via them they gave me the right
so
wording.
The online help is what's right.
No, it's in the online help now, but when
That's
we started, it was showing multi-thread, but it wasn't. It's not multi-thread. It's actually critical section. So if you want to use that feature where it's not multi-thread in angle brackets, it's critical space section. And that we found very nice because I had a little place where that's where telemetry will come nicely, and also it will help. But at that point when we were busy messing around with this, we don't have telemetry. But the point is, we ended up having a little every now and then crash because somewhere I addressed the critical section and I forgot to encode it between the critical section portion. Now it's so easy. You just say whatever variable is int whatever or array, and you open this greater than sign and put critical section, and it takes care of it. So it doesn't matter where you call it in your application, it does its thing, which saved me endless headaches trying to hunt down all the places I use it. So I don't have to worry.
We had a question while Wolfgang was talking about that, and Andy answered it via chat, but the question was, if you do an upgrade, how long does it take for you to get your dongle upgrade? And it's generally, it depends on the time of day because of the time difference between us and France. So it can be up to 24 hours. Often less. It just depends on the time you order it and what time it is in France. What's the best time to order it? Right immediately.
You see, with us, when we're in the same time zone, it takes about half an hour to an hour to do an upgrade until you get all your information. Just depends on how long the French salespeople are out on lunch.
Oh no, it's not. No, they have been really great the last couple
they've been good.
I have thrown things at them the last 2-3 days, in this because this is our first year of doing the upgrade. So We've obviously been their problem child, as I'm normally a problem child anyway. So, but they've been very good about it, and I'm very thankful for their help. So we've been able to make sure nobody's fallen off the ranch there. So.
Yeah. Ken, I must say, from our side in that, because we in the UK, we're not too much hours different, and usually I found within 4 hours on the average turnaround time.
Yeah.
I haven't had
early morning we can get them through. Early mornings we can get them through pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
It's just that Andy and Peter's not awake when they on the go.
That's
you know.
That's true. Well, let's put it this way: if we are awake, we're not one to talk to anybody.
Yeah. Listen, while you guys are showing new features, something which is in the HF SQL Control Center, I don't know if any of you guys have had a look at it. When you're running a query, now obviously I generate all my queries with a query editor, but sometimes you want to run it in the HF SQL to make sure it's working fine. And they've got explain in there now. So I'm not sure how to do a screen copy here, but what it does is if you can run your query, and then you can have a graphical explanation of the query, how it's run, where the joints are. And one of the very nice features of the new explain is when you click on one of the items in the explain tree, it tells you if it only used a subset of the table or if it had to browse the whole table to be able to run your query.
And
Fantastic.
that's how you put your indexes.
Well, obviously that's part of the whole issue, yes, but it actually tells you which tables and is run completely by the queries and which tables are only run partially by the queries. So from a visual viewpoint, it's absolutely fantastic, and it brings us basically to the same feature set as what MS SQL has regarding queries.
If it's aligned with what MS SQL gives you, and I'm just speaking off the top of my head because I have not gotten into to look at what you're doing or what you're doing on explain. When you're looking at one of those explain things, and I'll go through this because Pete and I have been doing this kind of stuff for 20-some, 30-some years now.
Yeah.
Part of it is analyzing how it goes down the section and say, okay, how can I speed this up? Because there's parts of it you can't do anything about. But if you're running a slow process, to go down there and say, wait a minute, why am I doing a full table scan here?
Yes.
Part of the reasons why people are doing what they call full table scans is because maybe you're doing something like a no space or a trim around the file, around the field.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
In order to get rid of spaces and things like that. That will automatically cause a full table scan. So you look at it and say, well, I've got an index on that field. Why is it doing that? Well, that's because you're doing this. So how do you solve that problem? Well, maybe the smart thing to do is actually fix the field. Yep, fix the field, or actually create another field that's on your index to do the searches by. I've done that as well. Okay, just to speed things up. So, the idea, obviously, no matter how much garbage the end user throws at your database, is for you to be as smart and pull it back as quickly as possible. So, since this hyperfile has gotten a little bit more advanced, especially with Explain, we may put together a webinar later on this year towards database analysis and database tuning in hyperfile. I'll look at it.
Yeah, that will be very good. Yeah, because I see it as the well, let's not say the poor man's, but the financially challenged person's answer to TPS.
No, there's nothing wrong with the hyperfile. Do not get me wrong. I am not dead set against the hyperfile. The only issue with using hyperfile versus, say, Postgres, MS SQL, or one of these other ones is not the fact that they're more expensive. it's more the fact of is using the right tool for the job. I wouldn't use a Volkswagen to pull 40,000 pounds. I'd use a diesel rig.
Yeah,
it's as simple as that. Now, I may still be able to pull it with an F-250, truck, which is in hyperfile. That's about what I consider hyperfile to be, is that medium range type 1-ton vehicle that you can do a whole lot with and do a whole lot of things with.
Yes.
But I don't expect it to be a diesel rig that can pull a train in Australia. That's Postgres.
Yeah.
That's Oracle.
Well,
that's them. That's what they
my
do.
point my point is also, the question is now, what's your average client going to be the heavy duty hitter? What kind of databases are you talking about? What kind of records are you talking about?
Well, nobody's actually gone and tested it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I've done a few tests, and I can tell you now, we've run up to just close to around 12 gigs of data, and I think it was something like 80 million records in it, and it was performing 100% fine from the first record right through to the last record. It's the same speed in and out. So I'm very impressed with what Hyperfile does. But like you say, where do you draw the line where you're saying it's not a hard hitter? As far as I'm concerned, most businesses in the world, 80-90% falls into the hyperfile category.
You're correct.
There's
You're
very few
correct.
to even warrant the more expensive ones.
You're absolutely correct. I would not. I mean, and that's the reason why, like, MS SQL's got their Express version. Okay, because they want to grab that big mark, and then as it grows and gets a little bit bigger, they can get them into pricing in the stuff. That's why there's the Oracle Express out there, which is basically a freebie too. They're the ones that are on the that's where hyperfile, in my opinion, is the range that it's in. It's in that same range there, and I can guarantee you there are 700 plus installations of MS SQL out there for tire store software over in Cookville that I helped them do, and there's probably a good 600 of them that are still Express. So I mean, every one of those, in my opinion, could go to the hyperfile and do just fine, and it'll run great, and probably in some instances actually run faster. Because of the abilities that it has. So
because it's not top heavy.
I'm not discounting hyperfile. I don't want anybody to believe that I'm discounting hyperfile, because I'm not. It's just my world is in the really big.
It depends the world you are in. If you're very much the top 100 companies and the Oracle guy or SQL guy, Microsoft, then you're kind of tied to that. But as far as I'm concerned, if you start really sitting down and looking at brass tacks, I think the big days of Oracle only and SQL is kind of over, with so many choices of databases in alternative fields. And hyperfile is what maybe Microsoft was 20 years ago. And even better maybe now because of the technology.
Oh, it's better than it was 20 years ago. I can guarantee you 20 years ago I wouldn't touch Microsoft.
Definitely you don't go, client doesn't want to change his database technology, so you stick with what the client has. But one of the things which I want to do, and I've got to go now, but one of the things I want to do very, very soon is set up a hypercluster and see how that performs.
That'd be nice.
And then do some tests on that, especially from a web viewpoint. Set up a hypercluster and try and push 20, 30, 40,000 connections at the same time and see what it does.
Because that's the area I'm in the cloud computing. Is that I can have literally 6,000-7,000 connections in a space of a minute, because I'm using the web services. And so each one of the mobile devices bang it, bang, 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 bang all the time. So as much as it bangs it, you gotta always look at the fact that how many connections I'm going to have. It's not like hyperfile. So I'm real concerned. I want to get it big enough that if I have all of a sudden 80,000 connections a minute or 100,000 connections and disconnections a minute, I want to be able to handle that.
Okay, guys, I've got to go. Enjoy the rest of the webinar.
We will.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Got your order, Ken. Pushing it through as we speak, sir. So we'll see if they come back with the quote. We'll get you rolling here. Okay. Anybody else got anything else they want to talk about on version 21 that they found so far?
There's so many little
Other
things.
than Ken. Ken would probably love to talk, but obviously Ken doesn't have a mic. You may well, Ken. You may have something to play with this weekend. Yeah. He's North Carolina boy. So we'll probably. I think we're about to cut this off. Pete, you got anything more you want to add to it?
Nope. I think we're good. Like I said, we just wanted to give a preview of the couple of things we've got to play with, and definitely over the next couple of months you will be seeing a lot more as we start digging into it even more.
There's a lot of things we haven't discussed, like the workflows and the resizing stuff on the screen on the fly for the end user, etc. etc. to give your support guys more headaches.
Well, yeah, thanks. The one question that popped up was, when is the official release of 21? We're hearing next month, mid-month, but this is actually a pre-release, not a beta. I want everybody to understand this. Because we're on the English side of this thing, we're instead of the French side, the French users get the beta processes last year. In other words, they're out 5, 6, 7 months before we ever see our first copy. So that's great in my opinion, because any issues that come up, they've already dealt with them, they've fixed them. Any kind of thing goes along with any of the new features, it's pretty much solved. So when we get the beta when we get the pre-released version, it's, in my opinion, 99% solid.
I think the pre-release is just probably the English wording was still wrong.
Well, that's 90% of the time it's the English wording. Now I have found 1 or 2 things, but I mean nothing major, and it's usually taken care of pretty quickly. But it's usually you'll pop up a message and say that's still in French and I have no idea what it says, or something like that. But as far as operating the program, running the system, compiling, doing everything you've been doing now in version 20, I would not hesitate myself. I would not hesitate.
We've just changed one of the big applications of ours, and we already released it to 3 of our clients. And
right now,
as if it's never happened, no difference.
Do you understand? There's one thing that you guys need to do. Everybody out there that is upgrading on any system, I don't care who makes it. When you start to upgrade, one of the feature set is under your SCM, you have branching. Do it. Allow it to branch your version 20 code for at least 90 days, 120 days as you're developing. Then you're so far past it, if the 20 bothers you, you can go on. You can go ahead and get rid of it. And the bottom line, I always branch it.
Yeah, and also the beauty about branching it is that should your version what you got out on 20 need something tweaking and you're busy something seriously on 21, you can go and do it and then reintegrate it by checking what and do a compare on the branches, and it's so easy to then cross-pollinate or cross-update between the old and the new branch, and get the customer happy and carry on with your mainstream development. It's really worth it. You've got a good point. Use it. Use it.
And if you guys are looking to, need an SCM because you don't want to hold it in-house, give us a holler. We're setting up all the cloud stuff, so if you guys need a WebDev server or SCM hosting, or now we're going to get looking at setting up the telemetry for people, we'll have that ability if you want to talk about it. So anyway, y'all be good or be good at it. Thanks for dropping by this morning. We shall talk to y'all later.
Have fun. Enjoy your weekend.
Shut it off.